This is Tim.
This is Jonathan.
Welcome back to another episode of The Average, the podcast where we dive into some weird movies, wild movies, and just wonderfully mediocre movies. Today, we're cranking up the nostalgia with a deep dive into the 1992 sci-fi horror comedy Bad Channels, a movie that is as quirky as it is unforgettable. For those who might not know, like me going into this episode, Bad Channels was directed by Ted Nicolau, who's known for his work in the Subspecies series, and produced by Charles Band, the mastermind behind Full Moon Features. The movie stars Paul Hipp as our rock and roll DJ hero, Dan O'Dare, who finds himself trapped in a radio station hijacked by an alien with a very peculiar plan. It also features Martha Quinn, yes, the Martha Quinn from MTV, as Lisa Cummings, a reporter who tries to unravel the madness. Bad Channels is actually part of the Dollman universe, if you can believe that. There's a follow-up crossover movie called Dollman vs. Demonic Toys, where characters from this film make a return. So if you're a fan of rock music, you're in for a treat. We'll get into that in the music, but the soundtrack features tracks from Blue Oyster Cult, which is a pretty big deal, as well as others. Okay. Are we ready to dive into this?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think we're ready to get kicking chicken.
Okay. Why don't you go first? You brought this movie to my attention. So unless you want me to go first, not knowing a whole lot about it.
No, that's okay. I don't mind going first for sure. So I'll be straight up. I didn't know anything about this movie really until about a month ago when I saw this random music video on my Facebook feed featuring one of the band's amazing bands that's part of the soundtrack in this film. So starting with the whole story situation, you get this crazy DJ who's been in some trouble. He's been on the rocks and he just got hired by this new station that has found out that they have a pretty wide broadcast on the AM band on 66.6 kilohertz. I think it's kilohertz. Something like that. So you get that kind of like ominous, 666 kind of feeling, that gives you like that kind of precursor to like, yeah, some shit's going to happen. Things are going to get funky. And then, Dan O'Dare, who's running this whole contest, playing nothing but polka until somebody guesses the combination to this lock to get all these chains off of him. They've got this major news station reporting on the whole situation and the development and seeing who's going to win the contest. And once the contest is over, once somebody guesses that combination and locks him off, then the station switches to being a primary rock station for the airwaves out of Patuha, California.
Yeah, it was
such a weird name, but California.
Is it a real place?
I have no idea. I didn't even bother to look it up. But Patuha, California.
Patuha, California.
That just sounds typical for California. But craziness goes on. The station, like the main news guy from the newsroom, while Lisa Cummings, played by Miss Quinn, she's on their scene reporting, and the newscaster in the station guesses the combination. Contest ends, but then out of nowhere, boom! Crazy lights. There's a UFO. She's like, "Oh my gosh, there's a UFO." DJ Dan won't corroborate, and the police and nobody else believes her. But crazy things start to happen. People start going missing. You get some insane scenes of people getting lost in the music of the situation. And this alien comes out of nowhere, takes over the station, and starts abducting these women as they play these songs. And everyone's trying to figure out what's going on. The police are like, how do we figure this out? What's going on? You got this guy from a power station who's infected with fungus. He's freaking out because of some alien who hit him with this weird rod. And he's like, stuff all over him. It gets nuts.
Which they said, the doctor says the stuff is just the worst case of jock itch he's ever seen. Oh
my God, that was so weird. I'm like, okay,
that is
all right.
disgusting.
Bodily jock itch for everyone involved, I guess. But the alien takes over the station. Craziness ensues. Everyone's trying to figure out what's going on. Police are trying to resolve the situation, can't get in the station, and DJ Dan's trying his best to warn the listeners, don't listen to this. They're going to come after you. Just don't listen. Nobody will listen. And everyone just takes it as a challenge to get in on what's going on as part of this new radio station format, is this crazy radio show with no one really believing what's happening until people really actually start going missing. You know, so with the concept of everything that's going on, I thought this was a great story. Kind of weird in the comedic sci-fi realm. I didn't really consider it horror so much. I just thought it was more comedic sci-fi. But still, I liked it a lot. I thought it was a pretty cool original story. I gave it a 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
You talked way better about it than I can. This is a wild story. This is a crazy story. It's definitely a satire. It leans way more to the comedy stuff than it does the horror stuff. Like you said, it's not really, I actually think the scariest part, scary in quotes here, of this movie is one of the music videos. I think that is creepier than the rest of the movie entirely. But the story itself is, this is where I dock it, but it's also cool, is it feels like an excuse to just connect some cool music videos. And that's it. Like, hey, we have these music videos. Is there a way we can like stretch this out? Maybe have a radio show host and get them connected somehow. And if that's the case, they went above and beyond trying to connect them. Like, the story's good. The story's entertaining. It makes it more fun. The story is almost like a late night MTV, like Headbangers Ball movie, where we're just, it's just a random bunch of crap that we're here for. And it's not super coherent all the time, but it's a good time. I do love a little bit of, they don't reference it, but it's in the bones of the story, is the Orson Welles War of the Worlds radio broadcast from, yeah, because nobody believes this guy is on the radio and he's saying like, the aliens are here, they're doing this, don't listen to your radio, turn off your radio, stop listening to this broadcast. And everybody else is like, oh, this is hilarious. This is so fake. It's so great. It's genius, whatever. And it's very much the opposite of what happened during the Orson Welles broadcast. But I was definitely catching those parallels of, this is actually happening in this movie and no one believes it. Whereas with Orson Welles, it was a radio drama that people believed. So I thought that was really cool part of the story. But ultimately, this movie is a long connected series of music videos. So I gave it a 3 on the story. I thought it was good. It's better than it has any real right to be. And it's a ton of fun. It's not docking it for being bad. It's just, it knows what it is and it's totally okay with that. And most of my scores are going to reflect that. So it's definitely unique. I can't say that I've ever seen anything quite like this before. So yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 3 because the story is a little light here. The story is a little light. The originality, though, I guess I could bump that up a little, but it's a ton of fun.
That's fair. And I didn't even think about the Orwellian aspect of it, so I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, that's definitely a good point for a parallel.
I thought
wow, now there's so much more to it.
Yeah. Before we jump into the next category, I want to tell you a little bit about Zencastr. When I was preparing for our 13 Nights of Halloween series, I was really searching for a way to streamline the process. I wanted a professional-looking setup to invite our guests to. I wanted quality audio and video recording, and I wanted the easiest way to release the episodes to as broad of an audience as possible. This is how I landed on Zencastr. It is now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Just log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen, knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. And speaking of audio quality, have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you're thinking of starting your own podcast or just want to streamline what you are already doing, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code AVERAGECUSTOMER, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. That's average customer, one word. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all of my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. So let's dive into the next category. So our characters in this, what do you think about the characters here? Is it Dan? Was that his name?
Yeah, DJ Dan.
DJ Dan. Dangerous Dan. Yep.
There's not really too much you can elaborate on when it comes to characters in this film because there's so many B and C characters with just a handful of main characters in the film. There's not much growth arc. There's some tension, strife, conflict, and resolution for the most part. But the majority of it is DJ Dan wanting to meet Lisa Cummings, her getting abducted by the alien, him trying to fight the alien and save everyone, and eventually, after saving the majority of the ladies from their abduction and actually getting with Lisa Cummings, the reporter, there's not so much arc. You've got these bit characters, the ladies who are abducted, who get saved and are rejoined with their environmental counterparts, with the nurse and the doctor from the hospital, Cookie, and then Peanut, the guy who runs the diner that she disappeared from. Then you got Bunny, who disappeared from the marching band at the school for the Patuha Panthers,
Oh, yeah.
And there's not much character growth and development. It's all mostly with DJ Dan and Lisa, and then the host from the newsroom. Was it Flip? Yeah, Flip, who's played by Ramel Rio. You don't really see much of anything, but he definitely has this really good edge of being like that cocky butthole who thinks he's like on top of the world because he's part of a major news network.
I love that you said cocky butthole to describe him because according to Wikipedia, the character's name is Flip Humble.
Oh, it is.
Because it's totally he's not humble at all. So
no,
that was a nice choice of words on your part. So
yeah, I think that was part of the intention with the character naming, though.
Yeah, part of that
just having that kind of an oxymoron for it.
Yep.
Yeah, the satire for sure. But you see Flip, who wins the car at the beginning of the movie from the contest, which everyone makes it sounds like it's luck by guessing 1, 2, 3. But then come to find out that, it was all part of the rig with DJ Dan just so he can meet Lisa. And him coming to the end of the film and seeing how much of a jagbag he is and then him getting kind of shot down at the end was kind of nice. But overall, there's not too much growth otherwise. The sheriff doesn't really do much of any, or, the sheriff, he's just there. Back and forth as part of the story, and then all of the bit characters. So, I mean, it's not bad necessarily, but it's not like really amazing or anything that stands out. It's just kind of middle of the road. So I sit it with a 3.
Okay. I gave it a 3 too, but while you're talking, I'm tempted to bring it down because I normally grade for arc, and there's not a super strong arc in this film. But it reminded me of the poor man's version of UHF. As far as characters go, like it's another radio broadcast. Like we're stuck on the radio this summer, but these characters were not quite as memorable. However, I do still want to we should follow this up with the Doll Man stuff, I'm kind of curious. I want to see the characters who show up in the next one. So
do I.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm in for it. So all right, let's jot that down. But it's
on the list.
Yep, it's weird because it's not a tremendous character arc. We're not really it. Almost going back to that Orson Welles thing. Dan is more of a not quiet observer, but he's more like that radio show guy narrating what he's seeing happen throughout the movie versus him actually doing any growth himself. There's no beginning of like, oh, I struggle with whatever, or, oh, I've overcome it and now I can defeat the alien. It's not there. But all of their characters are fairly unique to their roles and they serve a purpose to achieve the greater good at the end. So yeah, I gave it a 3. Nothing remarkable, but I do want to watch the follow-up movie and see who shows up. So I'm in for it. I gave it a 3. It's probably being generous, right. but I'm there for it. So this is the big category for this film. So I'll let you kick that off. Big category for this one.
Yeah. Music, music, sound design.
Yep, music, sound design. We mentioned how it's like a series of music videos connected. So that's how actually you brought it to my attention. So
the fact that the soundtrack overall was put together and composed by Blue Oyster Cult is pretty epic in itself.
Yeah.
Just a really big name in music, throughout, like, what was it? When did they start? Like the 70s?
70s. They dwindled a little bit in the 80s, but yeah.
Then it had a resurgence in the 90s with some of the different films that some of their work was featured in. But the fact that they pretty much were in charge of the whole soundtrack for this film is awesome because you get some really good music out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Polka aside, polka's polka. It's not Weird Al polka, so it's not as amazing as it could be. But, that alone from the side of it, all the rest of the music that was put together for it, 3 tracks specifically by Blue Oyster Cult, Demon's Kiss, Out of Darkness, and The Horsemen Arrive are pretty cool tracks. I think the tone that each of the songs provide for different settings in the film were well planned out. And especially with the fact, like you said, it's more like one long music video between the different performances that you see strung out through the story. It's like they created the story around the music videos to make it all fit in. But my favorite, Psychotic Symphony, Manic Depresso. That's the song that I saw in my Facebook feed last month through some random page that was like trying to promote stuff. And I got hooked, dude. I got hooked. I've listened to this song so many times.
It's catchy.
And it sits so heavy in the pocket of funk rock.
Yeah.
That was really popular that was coming up in the late 80s and into the 90s. And it's a fantastic music video just by itself, just for that one section at the hospital when the nurse is getting down before she gets abducted. And it's got a whole lot. It gives me so many feels of Mike Patton's Mr. Bungle and Green Jelly and that kind of feel. And man, I've listened to that whole album by Psychotic Symphony on Spotify, and it is some great stuff, man. Some good material on there. Crazy subject matter. Oh yeah. The album by Psychotic Symphony is called Eargasm. And they're one of those songs. Mr. Cool is featured in the soundtrack in the end credits, with still nice, funky kind of rock, Yeah. And it gives a great feel. And then even with the portrayal of some of the characters and their style, like Bunny, when she's at the school, they've got kind of like that rock band that's got more of that ballad, soft action, but we're still kind of like, we're still cool, we're hard, and whatever.
Yes.
The music was one of the.
That band was DMT.
Yeah.
Yep.
Touching Myself Again, when Bunny was getting down, everyone's watching her like, what the hell? But in her mind, she's in this whole fantastic scene with the band and the marching band moving around, doing stuff. Just absolutely incredible. And man, just.
So let's explain that for a second.
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
So when these music videos are happening, it's what the aliens are using. So somehow this is one area where like the story's not super clear on how it happens. It happens. The person listening to the radio, the aliens are trying to take these girls so they can somehow see the girl through their fungus radio, something or other. And when they take them, the girl envisions she's in like this music video situation, starts dancing, the band's there. It's a full on music video. We have one in the diner with dancing on the bar, guitars everywhere. We have the one in the school gym, which was Touch Myself Again by DMT. And then we have the Psycho Symphony one, which is actually, I thought the movie was going to be way more twisted and disturbing after just seeing this video, because it's like clowns in a hospital and they're like doing surgery and pulling string out of the clowns. It's wild music video, and the song is catchy, and it's been stuck in my head since I watched the movie. It's great. But in each of these, there is a female that's dancing in the music video that the aliens are trying to abduct. But in the real world, we'll get some cutscenes of people watching, and the girl's just dancing on her own, like in a dream-like state, and then she vanishes because the aliens take her. So that's where these music videos and songs come into play. How they like, where they determine like, all right, you've danced for 2.5 minutes, it's time to be abducted now. I don't know that stuff, but the music videos are pretty cool and fun to watch.
Well, a big part of that whole scenario is the fact that it's Danger Dan's voice that's being transmitted over the 66.6 kilohertz signal that is helping the alien to see these women and track them and then eventually abduct them. So that's part of how that all comes about. But despite that, man, I just thought it was badass. I just like that whole concept and how the music plays into everything as part of the story and not just as a backdrop to what's going on. So because of that, I gave it a big old 4, bro. I give it a big old 4.
That's a fair point, that the music is part of the story. And I gave it a 4 as well, because I think the music's awesome. But I took off because it didn't enhance the emotions or scenes of the film. Like I said, it felt like a music video inserted, and then they wrote the story around it to connect them. That's actually not a complaint about this film, because this film is a ton of fun. It works. And so that's why I give it the 4 for the music and sound design as well. I actually thought earlier, even some of the just little sound design stuff of the radio host, he'd do some vocal effects and clips in his radio like you see the cliche radio hosts do. I thought that worked really well and sounded good, and I was there for that too. So it was a 4. I think the music is probably the top reason to watch this film, for sure. So don't be dissuaded by that. A 4 is great for the music and sound design. But the editing and special effects on this one.
So editing special effects, I mean, there's some stuff that is kind of cool. I mean, the fungus thing that you see throughout most of the film and how it affects the people that get attacked by it. Some of them are in like, what was it? The guy, Corky, the radio station engineer. He ends up getting it on him, and Danger Dan thinks he's dead, but no, he's just encased in a cocoon-like state in the fungus.
Yeah.
And then there's the fungus that has permeated and transformed the studio overall.
It looks pretty cool.
And then you get to, I know, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to see how the Willis, the power station engineer at the beginning of the film, who flips out and he's like, "Hit me with a stick," and all his stuff, you know. You get to see these big patches on his body.
The
and
really bad jock itch.
That's some brutal jock itch, man. Nasty green, blah.
Ugh.
I don't know if it's supposed to look like that, because I've never really seen jock itch that I remember, but it's pretty rough looking, you know? Yeah. And then you've got the alien himself, even though like he looks in more of a humanoid form, but he's got this weird big, and as Danger Dan describes it as a big giant turd with a porthole. I thought it was hilarious. But then once, Danger Dan discovers that the germicide spray works to help defeat it, once the alien comes out of the shell of his casing after Danger Dan pops his suit with a box cutter, then you see you've got this big giant, almost like Little Shop of Horrors kind of plant-looking monster with arms, with weird claw protrusions. And that whole movement of that, it was very kind of like B film as far as the monster effect on that. But you also have like his little robot sidekick with the brain and bubbling in the little pot on top of the head. And the movement of the puppetry of that was kind of cool, even though it was a little hacky at parts. But that was still pretty cool. And I really I would say I really but I liked how like when they had the spaceship effect at the beginning for the UFO sighting and at the end as it kind of reminded me of Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
With that whole spinning lights and everything and how it goes up and down. Don't really have much to say about the editing per se. And then you've got the girls as they're being abducted, like the diffusion light effect. Very low key, but it was the early 90s, so it's not that you're going to like get anything really particularly amazing for the budget of it being kind of like a straight to video B film. But there was still a lot of stuff that I enjoyed and had a lot of fun with. But I just kept it at a 3.
Yeah. Everything that you mentioned, I kept thinking that they were going for the B film effect. They weren't trying to do, John Carpenter's The Thing with special effects. They were there to have fun. And so most of the time the alien is very clearly a dude in a rubber suit with something on his head. That thing breaks off and it's some good puppetry. It's serviceable, but I don't think they were going for crazy, great special effects. I think it's supposed to play to that kind of sci-fi cheese. I think it's supposed to fit with the humor of the movie. So I do think that, if I gave it a 5, it would be disingenuous because the effects are not good. But I think they were almost not good on purpose. And that doesn't take away from the watching experience of it. So I gave them a 3 as well. I thought they were good, and I think they're just good completely on purpose. Even the way some of the people like blink out of existence, it's nothing special. I've seen it done better in older movies, but I don't think this was trying to do a crazy special effects thing. It was a straight to video film in 92. It's better than it deserves to be. And I think like I said, I think it was done on purpose. I think they kind of amped up the cheese factor on special effects for fun. So to make it a little bit more of that humor. So I was a 3 on the special effects, and the editing was it was fine. There was nothing where I was like, wow, that was bad editing. So it served its purpose well.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah. The script on this one, though.
The script is really nothing to shout at. This is probably going to be like the worst score I've given for script so far.
Okay.
It's a lot of general dialogue to me, and it goes by kind of flash pan quick with a few little quips here and there. And if you pay attention, there's a few funny lines in certain parts of some of the jokes that they have between Dan and Lisa and talking to the police and with Flip in the radio or in the news station. It's just nothing that really grabs you as far as the dialogue and what they wrote for it. So it's just not the worst I've ever seen, but just two.
Okay. So that actually 2 means you think the script is okay. Here's the thing. We talked about on our summer vacation series with Ivy how I don't really laugh at comedy movies. I laughed at this movie quite a few times. I can't tell you why this movie was different, but there's just little things like early on when the guy like knocks on the window and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to go get cheeseburgers. What do you want?" And the lady's like, "Nothing." And then the other guy in the back goes, 3 cheeseburgers and a Diet Coke. And I was like, you're going to eat 3 burgers, but you emphasize the Diet Coke. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. It was just one of those little things that I thought was funny. There's also just some of those one-liners, those quippy one-liners. Like, I thought it was hilarious when the doctor's carving this green fungus off the dude's chest and takes it under the microscope, and he calls jock itch by its like Latin term or whatever. And the guy goes, "What's that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's just the worst case of jock itch I've ever seen." And I thought it was hilarious because how in the world is that just jock itch and you're just cool with it? Man, my sense of humor is weird. I thought this movie was pretty funny. So I ended up giving it a 3. It's definitely not a great script, but I liked some of the humor. I also really liked when they were calling in after the TV host won the car, and he says something about conspiracy theorists, and it says, "Was there a second shooter on the grassy knoll?" and mentions some of the popular conspiracies there. I thought that was pretty funny too. I laughed at that. So I ended up giving it a 3. I thought it was pretty good. The sense of humor was up my alley, so I'm a little bit more forgiving for that one.
Nice. Well, now that I think about it, though, when you mention the cameraman who took the order for the burgers before leaving the station, now in retrospect, I kind of think that maybe with his disappearance when the alien shows up at the beginning, I think maybe that little robot was that cameraman's brain inside the robot.
Oh, so
Theory.
later in the movie, he opens the door and is looking. He goes, "Where's that guy with my burgers?" And he sees the guy who's delivering the burgers was vanished, and he sees the burgers just sitting there on the ground. And he goes over and he picks them up and he's like, "Oh, my burgers, but where's my diet?" And emphasizes it again. It's stupid, but I laughed. I thought it was funny again. So that one got me. The acting, that can go right into the acting on this because it's hard to judge actors by a script like this.
Yeah, it is tough. Some of the main people like Flip, Flip Humble. He did a good job of being a jagbag.
Yeah, he did.
For sure.
Yeah, he did.
Being a cocky butthole, as I said earlier.
Solid
villain. But Danger Dan, I've seen, looked at his catalog of stuff, and he's had some interesting works. He's been in a lot of stuff, things that I thought I'd seen his face before somewhere, but nothing really stuck in my mind. But then seeing that he was in Lethal Weapon 3,
oh wow,
Tales from the Crypt. He was on Parker Lewis Can't Lose, which, man, I haven't thought about that show in forever, and that was an awesome show. And so many other small things, a lot of bit parts and things, but as the main character, I thought he did a great job as portraying that quirky, crazy radio station DJ host who was going for the flair,
Yeah.
Even talking about his bumper to bumper incident with the police officer that got him fired and out of work for 6 months.
Uh-huh.
He played it up, and his ability to be frantic and trying to warn these people to stop listening, just turn off your radios. He wasn't deeply desperate, but you could hear the anxiety and panic and being okay, he's trying, but it's just not happening. And then when he finally gets to the phones trying to tell people to stop calling in so he can get a dial out line and telling people to F off, was fantastic. I was just yes, you tell those weirdos to just F off and whatever, man. And then the rest of the characters, it was just average stuff. It's nothing that you're going to expect a lot from.
Yeah.
The sheriff, I think he did a good part in his role with trying to be serious and maintain a sense of control and authority to try and resolve the situation. Lisa Cummings, she seemed pretty intent on trying to be that reporter who wants to be first on the scene to get that scoop to really make her name in media, in the news world.
Lois Lane.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, she's trying to be the Lois Lane of the movie. And everybody else is just kind of there on the side, just kind of meh, whatever. So it was serviceable. but it wasn't the worst I've seen, but it wasn't like that great. So I sit middle ground on a 3.
Yep, I'm right there with you. None of the acting was so bad it took me out of the film. So I was watching it, I was having a good time, but for the most part, they're people I'd never really seen before, never really saw again after, and they did a serviceable job in their role. It was fine, you know. I don't really have a whole lot to say other than, like I said, it's hard to judge. Honestly, it's hard to judge somebody's acting skills on a movie like this. This is a very unique film. I don't know how else we can say that it is a unique film without the listener out there. Just go watch it because it's weird. It's free on Tubi and it's free on YouTube. So give it a shot because it is a different film. So
Melissa, or was it Martha Quinn though? She had a pretty good run of stuff aside from being on MTV. She was on the Weird Al Show, Full House. She was also on Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Okay.
She was in Problem Child 2, which we've spoken about before. We have,
yeah.
And she's just been in a whole lot of other random stuff that is pretty cool to check out.
Still haven't seen Problem Child. I need to get on that.
Dude, you were missing out so hard. 1 and 2, Gilbert Godfrey, bro.
Okay.
Gilbert
He's
Godfrey.
In both of them?
I believe both, yeah. Love Gilbert Godfrey. The dude's a treasure.
So we have
Direction.
I'm looking real quick. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we have 4 movies left in the regular season. So we could do the follow-up to this one and Problem Child 1 and 2.
Hey, that wouldn't be so bad. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would work out perfectly.
Get some Doll Man and some Problem Child action.
Yep. So the direction then. On to the direction.
I don't have much to comment on when it comes to direction. I mean, everything was pretty brisk from scene to scene. Good angles to see what's going on and movement around the studio, which was where most of everything is set. And with it being a lot of connected music videos, you get a lot of stationary, straight-on views of the scenes of stuff with a little bit of interplay and movement around, but nothing that's going to be really like amazing as far as videography goes.
Yeah. And
the way it's set. I love music videos, especially good music videos. And when I see crazy stuff, it just makes my day. The whole set with Psychotic Symphony doing Manic Depresso in the hospital, though, I love how they filmed that part. The direction of all the people moving through the hospital, looking crazy, fungusy. The hallway scenes with the guitar player in the nun habit going off.
The nun costume is fantastic.
Just rocking, dude. So hard. Rocking, bro. But other than that, I don't really have too much to comment. I thought it was cool. So I felt fair at a 3 on it.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to find out, and there's not a whole lot to find out about this film. Got to do some digging. I wanted to know if different directors did different music videos in the film, because they each kind of have a unique flair and they are definitely different than the rest of the movie. So I was curious to see if there were multiple directors attached to this, but there wasn't really. It's just the one guy, Ted Nicolau, and I think he directed all three of the core music videos that are featured in it, and they all have a unique flair to them. And ultimately, the whole thing to me felt like a music video, so I can get, like, that's the direction. But the music videos themselves are the high points for me. They're the high points of the film. The direction, ramp it up a little more stylish on those, and it's awesome. So I gave it a 3. I thought the music video scenes were cool. The rest of it is kind of feels like it's shot by somebody who does music videos. Now you get some music videos who are really good, but especially at that time in the 90s, like a lot of the angles were just a little tilted or like from the ground and extreme during a conversation, which hints to maybe this guy did some more music videos in the past. I don't know, but I thought it was pretty good overall.
Well, from what I read on it after the fact, apparently the director Ted Nicolau wasn't really interested in the project initially, but it was the idea of directing the music videos for it that really drew him into the project overall.
That might explain some things for sure. Because we should mention this guy's. So just some of his movies. 1985 started first. He was actually the sound recordist on Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974. He later joined Charles Band's Empire Pictures, where he worked as an editor on films like Ghoulies. And his first director job was The Dungeon Master in 1985 and Terror Vision in 1986.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So then he went on to Subspecies, Bad Channels, Remote, Bloodstone, Bloodlust, which were Subspecies 2 and 3. He's done every Subspecies movie. In 2004, he did Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys. So that's a fun one.
I actually love Puppet Master, the whole series, but I don't remember actually seeing that, and it's not part of the box set that I have. So I may have to go back and check that out.
I think they are all on Tubi too, but
nice.
He's definitely has that niche of the full moon world of bizarre horror, and he does a good job. I think, like you said, I think he definitely was here for the music videos because that's where I can tell he had fun. So I gave it a 3 on the direction.
Heck yeah.
So the it factor for this one.
So with it factor, at first I was like, well, there's not really much it factor to it. But then like I gave myself a little more time to think about it. And then it came to mind where with it being early 90s, it still kind of follows on the trend of the shock jock radio.
Okay.
You know, it makes you think about wild and crazy radio shows that were really popular because radio was still a predominant format at the time, whereas now everything's online digital media these days. So radio is kind of fallen by the wayside. But in terms of the 90s, it makes you kind of think about how it harkens back to those older radio shows like Wolfman Jack, Dr. Demento, and then on to more recent stuff like Howard Stern or like Mancow's Morning Madhouse.
Yeah.
I used to love Mancow. That was always some crazy shit you'd be hearing on there, dude. My God, like just crazy stuff. So I think that does have a big impact in that way when you think about it in terms of the radio show factor. And you know, the crazy contests to try and attract a crowd to draw in more listeners.
It worked. I remember growing up, you know, I was too young, but I just remember mom like sitting by the radio, like, third caller, can you, and dial, hang up. It was a time to be alive. So people are missing out these days.
Absolutely. So I think about that, and I don't think it being too prevalent, but still having some good impact. And then with how the end credits play out to that cut scene of Doll Man, I've known of the movies and I know they're there. I just never got around to watching them. But then seeing how this plays in from the end credits into that series of movies, because there's like 3 Doll Man movies. There's 1 and 2, and then there's the Doll Man versus Demonic Toys, which now I gotta have to watch. I'm gonna have to watch those just so I can see the recurrence of what happens with Bunny, since she never got back to normal size after everything and the alien fled. So with him saying maybe I should check her out, you know, see how she, you know, see if maybe I could help her out. That's pretty cool. And how that kind of like the small figure scene of how that plays in with Doll Man, Demonic Toys, and Puppet Master, or like Blood Dolls, the whole like full moon universe of small figure films.
Before Marvel was a thing, full moons over here creating their interconnected universe of straight to video movies. It's great stuff. So
I thought that's still pretty cool. Not largely prevalent, but I still feel cool with giving that a 3.
Okay. I give it a 2 because I'd never heard of this movie. From what I saw online, most of the reviews are people who hadn't heard of this movie until recently and stumbled across it either from the music video circulating on social media or people seeing it on streaming services like Tubi. And looking into other full moon features, they stumble across this one and it surprises them. So I gave it a 2 just because its lack of notoriety. Not a lot of people know about it, but it seems that the people who do have a good time with this film. So I gave it a 2. It was almost lower than that just because of the sheer obscurity of the film. But I think having a soundtrack that's put together by Blue Oyster Cult bumps you up a little bit more. You got to keep that it factor up because I'm going to assume that Blue Oyster Cult fans know at least the album that went with this because it's released under their name. So yeah, I gave it a 2 on the it factor.
Okay, I can live with that. Yeah, man. Not gonna dock you for it. It's
okay. So our overall, how entertaining is this film?
Well, for me, I dig it. I think it's cool. It's something I would definitely watch again and talk to people about just because of it being kind of more like, I feel like it fits into the B film cult classic kind of set. If you're a person who likes full moon films, cheesy, campy, but fun, and love the music and how awesome those videos were. It's not the most amazing thing, but still pretty cool. So I went with a 7 on it, and I debated going a little lower, but like the music, I love the music so much.
Yeah.
And the fact that Blue Oyster Cult just kicks ass. So 7 is about as low as I want to go with.
Yeah. So I'm at a 7 too. I had a lot of fun with this movie. Yeah. I had a lot of fun with this movie. The lack of story or the uniqueness and weirdness of the story doesn't make it one that I'm necessarily going to revisit a lot to like sit down and watch. However, the sheer energy of the film, the music videos, it's definitely something that I would actually probably put on in the background at work because the energy is right. It overall, man, I walked away from this saying it feels, and I kind of said it earlier, it feels like when MTV did Headbangers Ball. And it feels like they just did like a Headbangers Ball one night movie event and connected some hard rock songs and just went nuts in the studio. It looks like a couple dudes got together in the studio and were like, dude, we can totally make this movie. Yeah, we can totally make this movie. And then they just grabbed some stuff from the back, threw together a script real quick. But they had the songs ready to go and the songs were great. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it. When it gets real story heavy, kind of zone out a little bit, come back in at appropriate moments. But man, if you like rock music, especially 90s, 80s hard rock, this is a fun movie. It's weird. It is weird, but it's a good time. So I was a 7. I was 7 as well, which that takes my overall. I was 31.
See, you're just right under my nose there. I'm sitting at 32.
Okay. So we're both really...
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's a 3-star out of 5. Hey, this is just one weird little cult movie that somehow you stumbled upon the song online, and now we're both watching it and talking about it and bringing it up. Man, I don't know anybody who knows this movie.
Neither do I. I don't know anybody else who's seen it.
So I genuinely hope that our conversation, somebody tunes in and is inspired to go find this movie and watch it. Whether you like it or not, do what we always ask you to at The Average. Fill out the scorecard and let us know what you thought of it. We want to get you involved. But this is one of those bizarre little movies that I didn't expect it to be as fun as it was. Is it the most coherent thing you've ever seen? No. But I think under the right scenarios, this movie would be absolutely just it's 88 minutes long. It's not even a full 90 minutes. And without the credits, it's even shorter than that. So it's worth checking out.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yep.
That works.
Any final words, Jonathan?
Well, not really much. I mean, I'm just really intrigued by the whole Doll Man series and the whole demonic toy situation, how that crosses over between this movie, and with the Puppet Master franchise, all 3 or 4 of those together as part of like the whole Full Moon universe. And with these like tiny figure kind of films I was talking about.
Yeah.
It also makes me think of another Full Moon production called Blood Dolls. Now, this movie, I highly recommend watching that one as well, and maybe we could check that out one day as well as part of the whole thing, or just do a Full Moon run. Also, memorable because of the music.
Okay.
Part of it is there's a female band who is like stuck in a cage at the main antagonist's home. They live on a shock floor in a cage. So when he shits the music, they got to get up and play. And the female band fronts a lot of the music in the film that kind of sets the tone. So I feel like that would be a pretty cool one for people to check out as well.
I'm in. So that sounds interesting to me. Okay. I don't have much more to say about this movie. We got a nice short back to regular season episodes after summer vacation. So just a little bit left to go in the regular season before we hit you with the season finale of 13 Nights of Halloween, which is going to be a banger of a good time. So different guests every night on that. Having a bunch of surprises coming your way for that one. I'm excited for it. I can't wait for it.
Ooh. And Bunny just disappeared while DMT was playing in the background.
Yep.
Boosh. And there's the alien with his turd head with his porthole and the little robot.
There's a little shrunken.
He's getting abducted.
All right, we will see you in 2 weeks.
Peace.